All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are tackling a really fundamental concept from the BCBA task list, Section B, specifically B.2, identifying and distinguishing between a stimulus and a stimulus class. Now, I know that sounds a little technical, but trust me, this isn't just about passing the exam. This is the absolute core of why the skills we teach our clients either generalize to the real world or, well, why they sometimes fall flat. So let's get into it. So let's start with a situation that I'm sure every single one of us has experienced. You've poured weeks, maybe even months, into teaching a client a new skill. Inside the therapy room, they're a rock star. They've got it down cold. But then they go to school or to the grocery store, or a new person walks in the room. And poof, the skill is just gone. It's that classic, frustrating problem of generalization. And the answer, the key to solving it, lies in really understanding the difference between a single stimulus and a whole stimulus class. To make this super concrete, let's imagine a kiddo. We'll call him Leo. In his sessions, Leo is fantastic with greetings. Every time his therapist walks in, he nails it with a perfect hello. But then at school, he walks right by his teacher without a word. At the local library story time, he doesn't say a thing to the librarian. The skill is there, we know it is, but it's like it's locked away, only accessible in one specific situation. We're about to figure out exactly why that is. So to solve Leo's puzzle, we have to rewind. We've got to go all the way back to square one, to the most fundamental building block in all of behavior analysis. Before we can even begin to talk about groups of things, we have to be crystal clear on what one single thing is. Let's talk about the stimulus. Okay, here it is, the textbook definition. And I know it sounds a little dry, but the precision here is so important. A stimulus isn't just a thing. It's an energy change that our body can actually detect through our senses. A sudden bright light, the sound of your name being called, the feeling of a tap on your shoulder. All of these are stimuli. Just think of it as the single, indivisible atom of behavior. So if we apply this back to Leo, his therapist isn't just a person in the room. In this context, she is one single specific stimulus. Her face, her voice, the way she walks in, all those little things combine into a unique package that is the only thing triggering that hello. The behavior is under the control of one stimulus. And that right there is the start of our problem. Okay, so if the problem is that Leo's greeting is stuck to just one specific stimulus, then the solution has to be about, well, expanding that, right? We have to help him move from responding to just one person to responding to a whole group of people. And this is where we bring in the incredibly powerful concept of the stimulus class. This definition, right here, this is what makes generalization possible. A stimulus class is simply a group of stimuli that we've decided share some kind of common element. And the really cool part is that we, as the behavior analysts, get to decide what that common element is. This gives us so much power and flexibility in our teaching. So, how do we group then? How do we decide what goes into a class? Well, behavior analysis gives us three main ways to do this, three different lenses we can use to look at the world. We can group stimuli by their form, what they look like, sound like, feel like. We can group them by their timing, when they happen in relation to a behavior. Or, and this is a big one for our clinical work, we can group them by their function, by the effect they have on behavior. So let's go ahead and put on our behavior analytic glasses and really zoom in on each of these three lenses. I promise you, getting these distinctions clear in your head is absolutely essential, not just for the exam, but for designing effective teaching programs. First up, the formal stimulus class. This one's pretty straightforward, probably the one that feels most natural. We're just grouping things based on their physical features, their topography. Think about the concept of a ball. You've got a basketball, a tennis ball, a soccer ball. They're all different sizes and colors, right? But they share those formal properties of being round and, generally, they bounce. That's a formal class. Simple as that. Okay, next up is the temporal stimulus class. For this one, I want you to completely forget about what things look like or sound like. The only thing that matters here is when they happen. The classic example, antecedents. Think about it. To get a client to respond, you might use a verbal instruction, a physical gesture, or maybe a picture prompt. Formally, those are all totally different things, but because they all happen before the behavior, they all belong to the same temporal class. And now we come to the one that is, in my opinion, the most powerful and clinically relevant of them all. The functional stimulus class. With this one, we group things together based on what they do, what their effect is on behavior. Think about opening a door. You might see a round doorknob, a long lever handle, or a flat push bar. They look nothing alike, but they all have the same function. They open the door. They are functionally equivalent. And truly understanding this concept is exactly how we're going to help Leo. All right, so now that we're armed with our three lenses, formal, temporal, and functional, let's circle back to Leo. It's time to put all these pieces together and see how this knowledge gives us a clear path forward. And here it is. This is the whole situation laid out perfectly. The problem is that Leo is currently responding to just a single stimulus, his therapist. Our goal, our entire therapeutic mission here, is to shift that control over to a much bigger functional stimulus class, the whole category of people who are appropriate to greet. This is such a critical point, so let's be really clear. Leo knows how to say hello. The response isn't the problem. The problem is stimulus control. Our job as clinicians is to systematically teach him that his teacher and the librarian and his therapist, even though they look different, are all members of the same functional class. People I should say hello to. We have to deliberately broaden that stimulus control. Okay, we've cracked the clinical case. But now, let's pivot to what I know is on your minds. How is this going to look on the BCBA exam? Let's talk strategy. When you're sitting there reading through a question, I want these keywords to practically jump off the page at you. If you see a phrase like share a common effect on behavior or functionally equivalent, your brain needs to scream functional stimulus class. If it says share common physical properties, you're thinking formal class. And if it talks about antecedents that evoke the same response, you know they're talking about a temporal class. If you only remember one thing from our entire chat today, please make it this number, 3. There are 3 ways to classify stimuli. I want you to say them out loud right now. I'm serious. Ready? Formal, temporal, and functional. If you can keep those 3 straight, you are well on your way to nailing these questions. So let's end with the big idea, the one that ties the exam right back to your daily practice. This is why all of this really matters. We aren't in the business of just teaching isolated skills that only work in one room with one person. We are in the business of building repertoires that work out there in the messy, unpredictable, real world. So remember this. Don't just teach the response. Teach the entire class of stimuli that should evoke it. That, right there, is the heart of good, effective, and truly life-changing therapy.